Welcome to the Outside the Box Income and Investing Podcast. Whether you're looking to start a business, earn passive income, invest in stocks or crypto, or just want to learn something from business owners, entrepreneurs, and investors, the Outside the Box Podcast has you covered. This podcast does not provide specific financial, legal, or medical advice to any listener. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. Now, here's your host, R. Brandon Smith.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Outside the Box Income and Investing Podcast. Today, I'm going to be covering contracts for episode 5 of this podcast. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify, please subscribe so you do not miss an episode. Now, I know there were a few weeks or a week and a half where an episode did not come out. That's because I had law school last week or prior time commitments, but I'm trying to do these weekly or bi-weekly at the latest. But let's get right into this contract episode. Now, why am I talking about contracts today? Since I've taken contract law and finished my first year of law school, a lot of people have sent me contracts. I've helped people draft contracts, just looked at contracts. And honestly, there's lots of fuckery going on in the contract world, especially in healthcare. For an example, one of my Discord members sent me a contract for a company she was contracting with. And this contract they sent her was fucking insane. It was saying that she waived her right to personal jurisdiction in the federal lawsuit. She waived her right to venue, and that they could bring a restraining order against her. Obviously, we cut all that shit out, changed it, sent it back. What's crazy is they actually did not read what we changed and signed it anyway. So we took all the bad shit out of there. They signed it, but I don't think an actual attorney or anybody in their right mind made that contract because it was absolutely insane, but we made it a more legal, reasonable contract. And you just really need to read what you're agreeing to and make sure you read everything or have somebody review it, because after reviewing that contract, that was the craziest one, but that's not the only one. And you really need to either get versed in contract law via YouTube videos, whatever, or just hire an attorney in your state or someone who consults in it, because at this rate, from what I've seen in healthcare especially, it's fucked. You need to read your contract or fuckery like that, because you never want to waive your personal jurisdiction or your venue jurisdiction, because that just means that they can basically sue you in a federal court that favors their policies. Additionally, you never want to sign something that says they can bring criminal charges against you or grant a restraining order against you, which again is strange, and I don't know why that was in there. But for more practical purposes, I know lots of people go into their first job. They're happy to have a job. They think the job's end all be all after they graduate school or whatever they do, or they just wanted this job forever, but they never actually read their employment contract. So please read your actual employment contract. Realize that if a company does not give you reasonable time to have somebody review that contract will actually be rendered void in the court of law. And that is because there's case law from the 70s that says if you don't give somebody reasonable time to review your contract, that contract is void. I'll link that case below, or I may do a separate YouTube video on this topic altogether, or build out a course. Not really sure on the direction of that yet. So please make sure somebody gives you time to review the contract. Always counteroffer, always negotiate, especially when it comes to employment contracts. Now, for your own business contracts, again, as long as they are fair and reasonable, you can basically have a nice contract with another party as long as it's fair and reasonable. Please don't sign unreasonable contracts. Where I've seen unreasonable contracts the most outside of employment and contractorship is with insurance companies, because you're allowing somebody else to dictate your worth. Now, granted, there are some insurance companies that pay well, but usually that contract says they can change the rate at any time. And because you signed it and you had time to consider it, it usually will be held up, or the insurance company will settle with you and still determine your value, your worth. So if you're a healthcare provider who is signing contracts with insurance companies, or anyone signing contracts with insurance companies, those contracts are usually one-sided and unfair. So please, again, read what you're signing. Please read everything. If you don't understand something, don't sign it. Ask questions. If you don't like something, you can cross it out. Additionally, what I see a lot of people do is take sign-on bonuses. I would never take a sign-on bonus, because what happens with that, and I'll make another YouTube video on this because I believe I'm going to have to just help more people, is when you take that sign-on bonus, say it's 5,000, whatever you tax, you take home like 3,000, 3,500. But if you leave in a year, 2 years, or in a few months, because this job fucking sucks, you probably have to pay back that full 5,000. And it just becomes a whole messy nightmare that could have been avoided had you had an appropriate contract. Now, that's more for employees, but if you're an employer, just don't be a fucking dick. Just go ahead and make a reasonable contract. Make it reasonable and fair. Your employee's happy. You're happy. And I do understand that you're trying to mitigate risk and mitigate loss. But at the same time, you're a business owner. You know how to fix situations, and you should always have a backup plan that doesn't fall on relying on your employees. The insane thing to me is that most people could act reasonably if they chose to, but most don't. And I've seen this with the past few contracts I've reviewed or helped draft. Is usually what I see is somebody gets something from their friend. They never consult a legal consultant or anyone along those lines. And it's just pure trash. It's not reasonable. The employer doesn't know any better. The employee doesn't know any better. And it's just a fucking nightmare that could have and should have been completely avoided. So moving forward, whether you're employer, employee, just be a reasonable fucking person. Now, if you're a business owner, entrepreneur, growing online, whatever you're doing, affiliateships are fine. Affiliate percentages are fine. But if you're going to partner with somebody to provide course content, course material, whatever, make sure you have it in writing what that percentage is, what's going on. Otherwise, there's no evidence there that it existed. And it's best as the producer of that content to just pay them a one-time fee so you don't have to calculate percentages. All right. I hope this was helpful. I know this is kind of a different turn than the way the podcast usually goes, but I want to put this information out there, and I'll do a separate video on my YouTube as well, even though this is a video podcast, for additional clarity with some case law and case examples. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe so you do not miss the next episode.